The Bhagavad Gita, often called the Gita, is a 700-verse philosophical dialogue embedded within the Indian epic Mahabharata. Set on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it presents a conversation between Prince Arjuna and his charioteer, Krishna, who reveals profound spiritual teachings. As Arjuna faces a moral crisis before a great war, Krishna guides him on duty, dharma, selfless action, karma yoga, devotion, bhakti, and the eternal nature of the soul. The Gita serves as both a spiritual guide and a manual for living with purpose, courage, and inner peace. While the Gita is traditionally regarded as a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna, the text itself was written down by the sage Vyasa, also known as Ved Vyasa. He is a central figure in Hindu tradition, credited with composing the Mahabharata and compiling many Vedic texts. Vyasa's work transcends authorship in the modern sense. It represents a culmination of oral tradition, philosophical thought, and divine inspiration, meant to convey eternal truths to all seekers, regardless of time or culture. In a vast land where two families had grown apart, a great war was about to begin. Armies assembled on both sides of a wide battlefield called Kurukshetra. Elephants stood tall, chariots lined up, conchs blew in the wind, and warriors braced for battle. Among them was Arjuna, a prince and a mighty archer, who stood on a grand chariot drawn by white horses. Holding the reins was none other than Krishna, his friend, guide, and divine charioteer. It would be better to die than to raise his weapons against his own kin. Krishna listened, calm and still, like a quiet river under moonlight. He did not rush to comfort Arjuna. Instead, he asked him why, in such a crucial moment, he had allowed weakness to take root in his heart. This battlefield was not just about politics or revenge, it was about dharma, one's sacred duty. Arjuna was a warrior, and to him righteousness meant rising to face the challenge, even if it brought pain. Still, Arjuna was torn. He asked Krishna for guidance, not as a friend, but as a seeker asking his teacher. He sat down in his chariot, laying down his bow, surrendering fully, wanting to understand what was right, not just what felt easy. Krishna began to speak, his voice as timeless as the wind. He told Arjuna that what troubles him is the illusion of death and life. The soul, he explained, is eternal. Bodies are born and bodies die, but the spirit within remains untouched. Just as we change clothes, the soul changes forms, moving from one body to the next. Why grieve, then, for what is eternal? But Arjuna still could not see how fighting could be a righteous path. Krishna smiled gently and spoke of karma, selfless action. One must act, he said, not for reward or result, but because it is right. To do your duty with a pure heart, detached from success or failure, is the highest offering. The wise do not cling to outcomes. They act with full devotion and leave the rest to the divine. As the chariot sat still amidst the growing storm of war, Krishna shared more of life's hidden truths. He spoke of balance, how one should neither chase pleasure nor run from pain. He told Arjuna that true peace comes from within, from quieting the restless mind and connecting with the unchanging center of the self. In stillness one finds clarity. In self-mastery one finds freedom. The world, Krishna explained, is woven with opposites, joy and sorrow, gain and loss, victory and defeat. One who rises above them, seeing them as passing clouds in the vast sky of the spirit, is truly wise. To live in such awareness is to live in yoga, a union of body, mind, and soul with the eternal. Krishna's voice carried a weight that wasn't heavy. It was steady, like a tree rooted deep in the earth. He told Arjuna that life's greatest struggle wasn't against enemies on a battlefield, but against the chaos within the mind that swings between desire and doubt, hope and fear. To rise above that inner storm, one had to live with focus, with devotion, and with detachment. That was the way to peace. He spoke of the inner self, the witness inside all of us. This self is not the body, not the thoughts, not even the feelings. It is the still, silent observer, the spark of the divine that watches everything, yet remains unchanged. When a person comes to know this self, truly know it, fear dissolves, confusion fades, and all actions become offerings. Arjuna listened, but doubts still lingered in his heart. If all action should be done without attachment, he asked, then why act at all? Why not leave the world behind and retreat into silence? Krishna shook his head gently. Renunciation, he said, is not about leaving the world. True renunciation is in the heart. It means giving up selfishness, not responsibility. You can live in the world, Krishna said, walk among noise and dust, and still be free inside. What matters is not what you do, but how you do it, whether you act with greed and pride, or with love and surrender. A farmer planting seeds, a soldier lifting a sword, a teacher offering knowledge, all can be sacred if done without ego, if done with awareness and surrender to the divine. He told Arjuna about the different paths people walk to reach truth. Some seek knowledge through study and thought. Others serve, offering every action as worship. Still others follow the path of devotion, loving the divine with heart and soul. All these paths, though they may look different, lead to the same truth, just as rivers. No matter their course, all flow into the sea. But the highest path, Krishna said, is to see the divine in everything. Not just in temples or scriptures, but in the face of every person, in the rhythm of every task, in the breath that rises and falls without effort. When you see God not as a distant being, but as the life within all life, then you walk through the world with peace in your step and kindness in your hands. He reminded Arjuna that the world is constantly moving, a dance of creation and destruction, rise and fall. No one can remain still, for even in stillness, the heart beats, the breath flows. So instead of trying to escape action, one must act with wisdom. Act, but don't be bound by the action. Give your effort, not your anxiety. Offer your work to something greater than yourself, and you will find joy, not in results, but in the doing. As the sun began to rise in the sky above the silent battlefield, Krishna continued speaking, his words flowing like a river through Arjuna's restless heart. He spoke now of devotion, not as a rule or a ritual, but as a deep love, a surrender of the soul. To be devoted meant to trust fully, to walk through the world with the sense that nothing is separate, that the divine moves through every living being. He told Arjuna that those who offer even a leaf, a flower, a little water, with a heart full of love, they please the divine far more than those who give out of duty or pride. It is not the size of the offering that matters, but the sincerity. What is given with the whole heart becomes sacred, no matter how small. And so every moment could become prayer, every act a kind of worship. Krishna revealed that he takes many forms. To some he appears as the sun rising each morning. to others as wisdom, as strength, as beauty, or even as time itself. He said, "Whenever goodness fades and darkness rises, I return in one form or another to protect, to guide, and to restore balance." He reminded Arjuna that the divine is never absent. It only waits for hearts ready to see. Arjuna, who had long thought of Krishna as only a friend and charioteer, now saw something deeper, something limitless. He asked to see Krishna's true form, the one beyond names and shapes, the one that contains all things, and Krishna granted this vision. What Arjuna saw was beyond imagining. A light brighter than 1,000 suns shone before him. Within Krishna's divine form he saw the whole universe, stars, galaxies, time moving, life and death, all flowing in and out of the same being. It was terrifying, awe-inspiring, overwhelming. He saw warriors rushing into the jaws of time, like rivers into the sea. He saw creation and destruction dancing in one eternal rhythm. Tears welled in his eyes, not from fear alone, but from wonder. Arjuna bowed deeply and trembled. "I see now who you truly are," he said. "I spoke to you like a friend, unaware of your greatness. Forgive me." Krishna smiled and returned to his gentle human form, calming Arjuna's heart once more. Now that Arjuna had seen what lies beneath the surface of things, Krishna guided him further. He spoke of the three forces that shape the world, one of light and clarity, one of action and passion, and one of darkness and inertia. These forces flow through all beings, influencing how they think, act, and live. The wise learn to recognize these forces within themselves and gently guide their lives toward balance. When one acts from clarity and peace, seeking no reward, their actions purify the heart. When one acts from desire and ego, they become entangled. And when one avoids action out of laziness or confusion, they drift away from their purpose. So the goal is not to suppress these forces, but to understand them, to rise through them like a lotus growing through the mud into the light. As Arjuna sat still, listening with new eyes and a steadier heart, Krishna's voice turned softer, more intimate, like a breeze moving through leaves. He began to speak about the self that lives beyond the body, the one untouched by change, pain, or death. That self, he said, is never born and never dies. It was never created, and it will never end. It simply is pure, eternal, and full of light. When a person identifies only with the body, fear comes. Fear of death, fear of loss, fear of failure. But when one awakens to the deeper truth, they see that the body is just a garment. It is worn for a while, and then it is laid down. The self remains like the sky beyond the clouds, always there, always watching. And so Krishna told Arjuna, "Act, but do not be shaken. Fight the battle of life, but remember who you truly are, not a name, not a title, but a spark of the infinite." He reminded him that it is better to live one's own path imperfectly than to follow another's perfectly. We are each born with a unique rhythm, a unique dharma, and we must walk it bravely. Then, like a gentle teacher, Krishna spoke of the end of the journey, not in terms of death, but of realization. When a soul reaches the final shore, it no longer needs to return again and again to this world of rising and falling. It rests in peace, merged with the source from which all things come. This is liberation, not an escape, but a coming home. He told Arjuna that the way to this peace is through surrender, not through force. By letting go of pride, anger, greed, and clinging to the world, one begins to rise. And this surrender doesn't mean weakness. It means trust. It means walking each day with humility, offering your efforts, joys, and sorrows to something larger than yourself. Krishna spoke, too, of the quiet sage who lives in stillness, whose joy is not found in praise or possessions, but in the calm within. Such a person may live in a cave or in a crowded city. It does not matter. What matters is their inner light. They see no enemy in the world, no division between self and other. Their mind is clear, their heart open, their steps guided by love, not fear. Arjuna listened, his doubts melting away like mist in the morning sun. The path had become clear, not easy, but clear. He would act, but without clinging. He would fight, but without hatred. He would serve, but without pride. And most of all, he would remember, in every moment, the truth that Krishna had revealed, that within him lived something eternal, unshaken by the noise of the world. As the wind stirred the dust across the battlefield, Krishna continued to guide Arjuna, not with commands, but with clarity. He said that all beings are drawn to act by their nature. Even the wisest cannot escape action. But what sets the wise apart is that they act without attachment. They do not crave the fruit of their labor. Their joy lies in the doing, not the reward. Like the sun giving light, they give freely, expecting nothing in return. Krishna reminded Arjuna that everyone is shaped by the three forces: goodness, passion, and darkness. These forces are not enemies, but teachers. When one is ruled by darkness, they drift into laziness and confusion. When passion leads, one chases after success and pleasure, restless and never satisfied. But when goodness shines, the mind becomes calm, the heart generous, and the soul turns inward, seeking truth. Still, even goodness must be transcended, for even that is a force of nature. The wise rise above all three, anchored in their true self, untouched by praise or blame, joy or sorrow. They live in the world, yet are not entangled by it, like a lotus on water, floating, but never wet. Arjuna was now beginning to see that this conversation was not just about war. It was about life itself, about how to live with courage, how to act with purpose, how to love without holding back. It was about seeing every moment, every task, every breath, as part of a greater story, one that flows from the divine, returns to the divine, and never truly ends. Krishna then spoke of devotion, not as blind obedience, but as heartfelt surrender. The one who gives their thoughts, actions, and life to the divine becomes free, even while living in this world. Whether rich or poor, scholar or servant, anyone with a heart full of love can walk this path. There are no barriers on the road to grace. He said, "Fix your mind on me, be devoted, act with love, and surrender all outcomes to me. In doing so, you will come to me. I promise, for you are dear to me." These were not the words of a distant God, but of a friend who walks beside you, who waits patiently for you to remember that you are never alone. Arjuna's eyes were no longer clouded. He had come to understand that this war was not a curse, but a chance to fulfill his sacred role, to stand for what is right, to protect those who could not protect themselves, and to do so not from hate, but from love for truth, for duty, and for the divine that lived in all hearts. And so, with his doubts gone and his courage restored, Arjuna stood tall in his chariot once more. He picked up his bow not with anger, but with peace. He was ready not just for battle, but for life, guided by the teachings that now lived in his soul. The sky above Kurukshetra was wide and still, as if holding its breath. In that sacred moment, Arjuna stood transformed. The fear and confusion that once weighed on his shoulders had fallen away. What remained was a quiet strength, not loud or boastful, but firm like a flame that would not flicker in the wind. Krishna looked at Arjuna with calm eyes. He had given him everything: wisdom, guidance, the vision of the eternal, and the truth of the soul. But still, he said, the choice was Arjuna's. "Reflect on what I have said," Krishna told him. "Do as you see fit, for even the divine does not force. Love, freedom, and truth must be chosen, not imposed." And Arjuna, heart clear and spirit steady, bowed deeply. "My doubts are gone," he said. "My purpose is firm. I will act as you have guided me." His words were not those of a man stepping into war, but of a soul returning to its path anchored in duty and devotion, in inner peace. As the chariot rolled forward, the sound of conchs filled the air once more. Warriors stood ready, unaware that a quiet revolution had taken place within a single man. This was no longer a story about battles and victories. It had become a story of awakening of one person who, in the face of despair, found clarity, and through that clarity discovered the light within. And though centuries would pass, the words spoken between Arjuna and Krishna would echo through time, not just in temples or books, but in every heart that asks, "What is my purpose, and how should I live?" For the Gita is not a tale locked in the past. It is a song that plays in the soul of anyone standing at the crossroads of doubt and duty. Its message is simple, yet profound. Do your work with love. Live your truth without fear. See the divine in all beings. And when the world feels heavy, remember the self within you is untouched, unbroken, eternal. That light is who you are. And so the chariot moved, the battle began, and the story of the Gita lived on not as a memory, but as a mirror, reminding each soul that it is never truly lost, only waiting to awaken. After Arjuna made his vow to rise and fight, Krishna did not fall silent. There was still more to be said, deeper truths to reveal. He turned Arjuna's attention now to the nature of faith itself. People are drawn to different paths based on their inner tendencies, he said. Some worship with knowledge, others with devotion, and others still with ritual. But behind all these forms of faith stands the same divine, accepting every offering made with sincerity. Faith shapes the heart, and the heart shapes destiny. If a person believes in something with their whole being, even if that belief is limited, the divine honors their sincerity and guides them gently forward. But when faith is lost, when one becomes hollow and distracted, their steps lose rhythm, and their mind begins to drift like a boat without an oar. Krishna explained that desire, when left unchecked, clouds the mirror of the soul, just as smoke hides the flame and dust dims the glass. Selfish craving dims wisdom. The wise, however, purify their minds through self-control, clarity, and discipline. They learn to master their senses, not by suppressing them harshly, but by offering their desires into a higher fire, the fire of knowledge and devotion. He told Arjuna that real wisdom is not in collecting facts, but in seeing life with clear eyes, to see the unity behind all diversity, to know that every living being is part of the same whole. This is true understanding. The person who sees a stranger as themselves, who feels the joy and sorrow of others as their own, walks in truth even if they live a simple life. Arjuna, now open and listening with a quiet reverence, asked Krishna about the marks of such a person. How do they walk? How do they live? Krishna smiled and described the sage, calm amid chaos, unmoved by praise or blame, free from jealousy and fear, full of compassion, not attached to success or failure. Such a person lives in the world, yet remains untouched by it, like a swan gliding over water. This wasn't just a description of someone else, it was an invitation. Arjuna could become that. Anyone could. The Gita was not a lesson for saints or scholars alone. It was a guide for anyone struggling between doubt and duty, longing to live with meaning in a noisy, changing world. The wind across Kurukshetra was warm now, as if even nature had paused to listen. Krishna's words flowed on, not to impress, not to preach, but to gently lift Arjuna from the fog of confusion into the sunlight of understanding. He now spoke of work once more, returning to the theme like a song's chorus. All life, Krishna said, is action. But the difference between bondage and freedom lies in intention. When someone works with greed, pride, or attachment, they become tied to the world like a bird in a golden cage. But when they act without craving, offering every effort as worship, the same work becomes a path to freedom. It's not what you do, but the spirit in which you do it that makes all the difference. He told Arjuna about sacrifice, not just rituals or ceremonies, but the everyday sacrifices we make when we place others before ourselves. The mother feeding her child, the healer tending to the sick, the craftsman pouring his care into every stroke, these too are sacred. Every act, when done with devotion, becomes a step on the spiritual path. Krishna also explained the idea of rebirth, not as a punishment, but as a chance. Each soul, he said, carries the imprint of its past. When the body dies, the soul moves on, taking with it all that it has learned and all that it still longs to understand. Those who live with love and wisdom are born again into lives that help them grow even further. And for those who reach full realization, the cycle ends and they become one with the source. Arjuna asked about the fate of those who fall from the path, those who begin with sincerity but stumble midway. Krishna reassured him, no sincere effort is ever wasted. Even a little practice of truth protects one from great fear. If someone falters, they are never abandoned. Life will bring them again to the path, in this life or the next, until they reach the goal. Then Krishna turned to the image of the world itself, how it is formed, how it is held. He explained that behind all matter lies spirit, and behind all spirit lies the Supreme, invisible but present in all things. The divine pervades the world like fragrance in the air or oil in a seed. It's not found only in silence or seclusion, but in the heart of everyday life. The wise see this. They walk through the market, the forest, the home, and the battlefield alike, seeing the same presence in all. They no longer divide life into sacred and mundane, for to them everything is sacred. Every moment is an offering. Every breath is part of the prayer. And as Krishna spoke these truths, it was as if the battlefield had become a temple, not of stone, but of awakening. Arjuna, once broken by doubt, was now rising not just in courage, but in clarity. He was no longer searching for answers outside himself. He had begun to remember who he truly was. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the field. But Arjuna's mind was no longer clouded by hesitation. Krishna's teachings had stirred something deep inside him, a steady flame of understanding and resolve. Now Krishna spoke of the highest wisdom, the realization that the divine is not just around us, but within us. He told Arjuna that the self, the soul, resides in the heart, shining like a lamp within a dark room. To see this light, one must turn inward, quiet the chatter of the mind, and listen deeply. Meditation, Krishna explained, is the key to this inner sight. Sitting in stillness, focusing the mind, and calming the breath opens the door to the eternal self. The practice is not easy, Krishna said, but it is the surest path to peace. The mind, wild and restless like a stormy ocean, must be tamed. When the waves settle, the water reflects the moon and stars perfectly. So too, when the mind is calm, the soul's light shines clearly. He described the meditator who has conquered their desires and fears. Such a person stands firm amid the world's storms, undisturbed by praise or blame, by success or failure. They have no cravings or anger. Their heart is open like a flower in the sun. They treat all beings with kindness, seeing themselves in everyone and everyone in themselves. Arjuna felt the weight of these words, heavy with truth and promise. He knew this was not a distant ideal, but a living reality he could strive toward. He asked Krishna how he might walk this path amid the duties of life, the battles to fight, and the world's endless noise. Krishna smiled and said that the path of meditation is not about abandoning life, but about living fully in it, awake and aware. Even in action, the soul can remain peaceful if the mind is steady. The yogi, the one who unites action with meditation, sees the divine in every step, every breath, every moment. He said, "See the self in all beings, and all beings in the self. Then no one is a stranger, no one an enemy. All are threads in the same vast tapestry, woven by the divine hand." This vision, Krishna promised, brings freedom from suffering, fear, and sorrow. As the battlefield hummed with tension and life, Arjuna understood that this inner awakening was his true battle. The struggle was not against others, but against the shadows inside ignorance, attachment, and fear. To win was to rise above them, to claim the light that was always his. As the day drew on and the battle preparations reached their peak, Krishna's final words were gentle but powerful. He spoke of surrender not as giving up, but as the ultimate strength. To surrender means to place one's trust fully in the divine, to release control over outcomes, and to embrace the flow of life with courage. He said that those who surrender with a pure heart are never lost. Even in the darkest moments, they are carried by a hidden current of grace. Give up all attachments, Krishna urged, and take refuge in me alone. I will protect you from fear and lead you to the highest peace. Arjuna felt a deep calm settle over him, a stillness that reached beyond his mind to the very core of his being. He saw that the path Krishna laid out was not just for the warrior on the battlefield, but for all souls seeking truth, no matter their station, background, or struggle. The Gita's teachings had transformed him. No longer was he just a prince with a bow. He was a seeker, a servant, a soul awakened to its eternal nature. He would face the war not as a fight for power or pride, but as a sacred duty performed with love, clarity, and surrender. As the chariot moved forward and the conchs sounded once again, The timeless lesson of the Gita lived on, echoing through centuries and across cultures, inviting all who hear it to walk the path of courage, devotion, and wisdom. In the heart of every soul lies a light that never dims. No matter the battle outside or within, that light is the true self, eternal, unchanging, free. And when we remember this, we find peace that passes understanding, a peace that carries us through every challenge and into the boundless embrace of the divine. Thank you for joining this journey through the timeless wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. May its teachings inspire you to find courage in moments of doubt, clarity in confusion, and peace amid life's battles. Remember, the light within you is eternal, a spark of the divine that no challenge can extinguish. Walk your path with love, devotion, and unwavering faith. Until next time, stay grounded and keep seeking the truth within.